The Senate will come to order. I ask everyone present to please rise and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In the absence of clergy, let us bow our heads in a moment of silent reflection or prayer. Reading of the journal.
In Senate, Monday, April 26, 2021, the Senate met pursuant to adjournment. Journal of Sunday, April 25, 2021 was read and approved. On motion, the Senate adjourned.
Without objection, the journal stands approved as read. Presentation of petitions, messages from the Assembly. The Secretary will read.
Senator Lanza moves to discharge from the Committee on Environmental Conservation Assembly Bill number 2000 and substituted for the identical Senate Bill 5150, third reading calendar 591.
Substitution so ordered.
Senator May moves to discharge from the Committee on Rules Assembly Bill number 6966 and substituted for the identical Senate Bill 6203, third reading calendar 727.
Substitution so ordered. Messages from the Governor. Messages of standing committees. Reports of select committees. Communications and reports from state officers. Motions and resolutions. Senator Gianaris.
Thank you, Madam President. On behalf of Senator Kavanaugh, on page 33, I offer the following amendments to Calendar 607, Senate 2903, and ask that said bill retain its place on third reading calendar.
Yeah. Sorry. The amendment is received and the bill shall retain its place in the third reading calendar.
On behalf of Senator Kennedy, I wish to call up Senate 2767, recalled from the Assembly, which is now at the desk.
The Secretary will read.
Calendar number 260, Senate Print 2767 by Senator Kennedy, an act to establish a private student loan refinance task force.
Move to reconsider the vote by which the bill was passed.
The Secretary will call the roll on reconsideration.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White, ayes 60.
The bill is restored to its place in the third reading calendar.
Amendments?
The amendments are received.
Move to adopt the resolution calendar with the exception of Resolution 652, 657, and 667.
All in favor of adopting the resolution calendar with the exception of resolutions 652, 657, 667, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The resolution calendar is adopted. Senator Gianaris.
Can we now take up Resolution 667 by Senator Mayer? Read that resolution's title and recognize Senator Mayer.
The Secretary will read.
Senate Resolution 667 by Senator Mayer, mourning the death of Marla Offenbach-Wilban, distinguished citizen and devoted member of her community.
Senator Mayer on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President, and it's really my honor and with a great sense of sadness that I speak about Marla Offenbach-Wilban, who was a true leader in our community in the city of Yonkers, in fact, a visionary leader on behalf of the children of Yonkers, as well as someone who brought intergenerational work into our not-for-profit sector. I'd like to credit Marla Wilban for teaching all the parents of the children of Yonkers how to be an advocate. Every month, she went to the Board of Education meetings as the president of either the entire Yonkers Council of PTAs or representing the schools where her children attended. And she would speak passionately and strongly about the need for funding for the Yonkers Public Schools. There wasn't a meeting that she didn't attend. She didn't get mad. She didn't pound her fist. She made the case for kids at every meeting. And then between meetings, she would invite to her house the members of the Yonkers Council of PTAs, many of whom had never lobbied before, and she taught them how to lobby for money for the Yonkers Public Schools. She was truly a leader in the public school community. I'd like to say she was one of the few people who sat down and really tried to understand the so-called formula, which no one can really explain very easily. Marla really worked at understanding it and explaining it. She was absolutely adamant that people should understand what were the implications of not having enough money not having enough sports and arts and music and guidance counselors and social workers for her kids and for every other kid. She coined the phrase, "Our children deserve better," which became the hallmark phrase for the children of Yonkers every year, including this year. And then in her job at the Jewish Council of Yonkers, where she was head of intergenerational programming, she brought together seniors with students in our public schools, mostly students of color, to allow them to be mentored by many retired teachers, retired professionals, and it was such a brilliant experience on both sides for both people. She also did something that mattered greatly to me. She encouraged Holocaust survivors to come and speak to our students who had very little knowledge and experience with the Holocaust, to hear firsthand how these survivors have survived at ages 8, 9, and 10 as they were then. It was a moving experience every time that I attended and every time that it happened. Marla was passionate, empathetic, and loving. She was a remarkable part of our community, a true leader. I know the leader and I, both as representatives of Yonkers, as well as all my colleagues, send our condolences to her daughter, Helena, and her son, Joshua, her sister, Dana, and her brother-in-law, Robert. May her memory be a blessing. Thank you.
Let's go to the question. The question is on the resolution. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The resolution is adopted. Senator Gianaris.
Can we now take up Resolution 657 by Senator Ryan? Read that resolution's title and recognize Senator Ryan.
The Secretary will read.
Senate Resolution 657 by Senator Ryan, congratulating Mary Jean Jakubowski upon the occasion of her retirement after nearly 30 years of distinguished service to the Buffalo and Erie County Public Library.
Senator Ryan on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. Mary Jean Jakubowski, she's a library systems director for the Buffalo and Erie County Public Library. She recently announced her plans to retire after 30 years with the system. I've worked with Mary Jean for several years as the library's chair in the Assembly, now the library's chair in the Senate. And I have to tell you, Madam President, that working with Mary Jean has been an absolute pleasure. Not only because of her profound commitment to improving and expanding library access throughout Buffalo and Erie County, or because of her fantastic work ethic and her capabilities as a leader and an innovator, but really the best part about working with Mary Jean was her unparalleled kindness. She's a great person and was terrific to work with. She's an example of somebody who does the work every day for the right reasons. And it shows that all she's been able to achieve during her career at the library system, and she's done it with exceptional humility. She started at the library system as a librarian. She was quickly recognized as a go-getter and someone with tremendous capability. And then she served in many, many different categories. She was a human resources officer, chief operating officer, and finally the systems director, or we would say the president of the library system for over a decade. She's a visionary when it comes to libraries and how libraries serve people, and she's recognized both in Buffalo and throughout the state. I have meetings often with other library directors where they refer to Mary Jean Jakubowski as a rock star amongst her profession. But that's because she understands libraries as community anchors. She's worked always to expand existing programs, to constantly redefine how we view our libraries, but all the while recognizing that greater accessibility for everyone to use the library system. And she was very successful at reaching those goals. She created the downtown reading park. She created programs that offered sports equipment, not just books, Madam Chair, but sports equipment to children. Library card amnesty. She helped build the Launchpad Makerspace. She created a library by mail service for people who couldn't get out to the library. And she expanded access to the library by restoring the bookmobile. That's the big truck that goes around the communities and offers you books right in your neighborhood. It also travels with Wi-Fi that people can tap into. She created internet hotspots in every library in Buffalo and Erie County, not just inside the building, but outside. And you'll see today Buffalo kids sitting on the stoops of libraries after they're closed so they can download their homework assignments from the internet. You go to the rural areas, the parking lots are full when the library's closed. It's the same thing. It's so people of modest means can access the internet, and they do it through the library. And she really shined during the pandemic. She offered the library up to so many different programming. This all happened when you couldn't come into the library. She figured out a way how to deliver the libraries into people's living rooms, whether it was through backpack pickups, activity boxes, leaving books in boxes outside the library with people's names on it so they could pick it up. She figured out a way to get it done there during the pandemic. And throughout her career, she's risen to every occasion. She's been an invaluable partner to me, an asset to Western New York in New York State. And I'd be lying if I didn't say I was sad to see her go, but at the same time, I will wish her well and wish her the absolute best in her retirement and thank her once again for her service to Buffalo and to the Erie County library systems. Thank you, Madam President.
Senator Kennedy on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. I too rise to honor Mary Jean Jakubowski for her nearly 30 years of service within the Buffalo and Erie County Public Library System. I want to thank the chairman of the Libraries Committee, Senator Ryan, for bringing this important resolution to the floor to honor one of Buffalo's finest. Mary Jean Jakubowski dedicated her life's work to helping others, and under her leadership, the library system is transformed into a true community-minded entity. Most recently, Mary Jean has served as the library system director, overseeing 37 libraries, including 9 of those in the city of Buffalo, each with its own unique history and characteristics. However, throughout her career, she's taken on numerous roles, including COO, Human Resources Officer, Central Library Department Head, and, of course, a librarian. She spearheaded various new initiatives, including the Downtown Reading Park, created the Library by Mail service, and helped to build the Launchpad Marker Space, a space that removes financial and social barriers to creative thinkers by providing free public access to tools like computer programming, 3D printing, media production, and more. Mary Jean understands the power a book can have on a child's life, the ability to transform time and space into a magical and unpredictable journey with the turn of a page. But she also understands the power of emerging technology and has worked tirelessly to incorporate its presence into the library system's footprint. She's gone above and beyond to advocate for more than $20 million in grant funding in order to provide the most impactful and efficient resources for our communities, from our youngest children to our oldest adults. Over the years, Mary Jean has focused her time on integrating not only the stories of novelists into these libraries, but the stories of the history and the neighborhood that each of these branches serves. She builds strong partnerships and believes in the power of education. She leads with heart and understands the importance of collaboration. Most importantly, she serves with compassion and inspires others to do the same. In watching her do it all, her incredible family, her husband Lawrence, and her daughters Caitlin and Kristen. Mary Jean, as you enter this next chapter of your retirement, and yes, Madam President, pun intended, we thank you for your decades of service and congratulate you on a career that has truly made Western New York and New York State better for all people and all families. Cheers to a new beginning. With that, Madam President, I vote aye.
The question is under resolution. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The resolution is adopted. Senator Gianaris.
Thank you, Madam President. Now let's take up Resolution 652 by Senator Reichlin-Melnick. Read that resolution's title only and recognize Senator Reichlin-Melnick.
The Secretary will read.
Senate Resolution 652 by Senator Reichlin-Melnick, honoring the life and heroic actions of Jared Lloyd, renowned volunteer firefighter, devoted father, and distinguished member of his community.
Senator Reichlin-Melnick on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise today to recognize a hero from Rockland County named Jared Lloyd. Jared was a 35-year-old volunteer firefighter, father of two, 16-year veteran of the Columbian Engine Company No. 1 of Spring Valley, New York. And on the night of Tuesday, March 23rd of this year, he paid the ultimate price, saving the lives. Because on that night, on March 23rd, the Evergreen Court adult home facility in Spring Valley was engulfed in a terrible fire. This was a facility that cared for over 100 of the most vulnerable people in the community, and it could have been an absolute catastrophe. Jared was one of the first firefighters on the scene. Ultimately, more than 150 firefighters responded, multiple departments from multiple states, and he went into this building and with his fellow firefighters saved 112 residents of the facility. Only one person from that facility lost their lives. Tragically, Jared became trapped in that burning building. He radioed a Mayday call to his fellow firefighters, and that was the last that they heard from him. After the building collapsed, it took over 18 hours to find Jared's remains, but his firefighter brothers and sisters brought his remains out of that building once and for all. And they gave him a hero's funeral because that is what he was, and it was what he deserved. He was a beloved father to Darius and Logan, his two children, one of whom turned 6 the day after this tragedy. The Spring Valley community, the volunteer fire community of Rockland County and well beyond, was devastated by this loss. I had the honor to attend his funeral at the Boulder Stadium in Rockland County, and there were thousands of volunteer firefighters there from all across the tri-state area and beyond, paying honor and recognizing Jared Lloyd, who made the ultimate sacrifice and helped save over 100 lives. So on behalf of the community of Rockland and Spring Valley and the volunteer fire community, we mourn his loss, we celebrate his sacrifice, and we recognize and honor the incredible dedication that he showed to keeping people safe and saving lives. Thank you.
The question is on the resolution. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The resolution is adopted. Senator Gianaris.
At the request of the sponsors, the resolutions we just took up are open for co-sponsorship.
The resolutions are open for co-sponsorship. Should you choose not to be a co-sponsor of the resolutions, please notify the desk. Senator Gianaris.
There will be an immediate meeting of the Rules Committee in room 332.
There will be an immediate meeting of the Rules Committee in room 332.
The Senate stands at ease.
The Senate stands at ease.
The Senate will return to order. Senator Gianaris.
Madam President, there's a report of the Rules Committee at the desk. Let's take that up, please.
The Secretary will read.
Senator Stuart Cousins from the Committee on Rules reports the following bills. Senate Print 5742 by Senator Kaplan, an act to amend a chapter of the laws 2021. Senate Print 6362 by Senator Kavanaugh, an act to amend chapter 381 of the laws 2020. All bills report direct to third reading.
Move to accept the report of the Rules Committee.
All those in favor of accepting the report of the Rules Committee signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The Rules Committee report is accepted. Senator Gianaris.
Please take up the calendar.
The Secretary will read.
Calendar number 148, Senate Print 723A by Senator Hoylman, an act to amend the public health law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 90th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Dabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 317, Senate Print 113 by Senator Kaplan, an act to amend the Business Corporation Law and the Limited Liability Company Law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect on the 60th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Dabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 380, Senate Print 4478A by Senator Brooke, an act to amend the Public Health Law and the Environmental Conservation Law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect on the 180th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Dabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Senator Serino to explain her vote.
Thank you, Madam President. Nice to see you. I'd like to thank the sponsor, Senator Brook, for bringing this bill forward. And while I certainly share the intent to protect children from any potentially dangerous chemicals, I'm a bit torn on this and just want to put on the record that I think the bill could benefit from some amendments to ensure that it does not have unintended consequences that could hurt our kids down the road. I'm especially concerned when it comes to Lyme and tick-borne diseases. And as you know, I'm always talking ticks. Integrated pest management approaches to reducing the number of ticks can really play an important role in protecting the health and safety of our children, who are especially prone to contracting Lyme and tick-borne diseases. I would urge you to consider amendments to ensure any available tools to reduce the number of ticks can be utilized effectively. And I would also encourage you to take a look at a bill that I sponsor, Senate Bill 3937, that would create a Lyme and tick-borne disease awareness program specifically for children's overnight and day camps. It's amazing because my bill would also provide guidelines for tick removal and treatment at these facilities, and most importantly, establish rules for parent and guardian notification. I can't tell you how many times that we hear from parents whose child seems to display Lyme symptoms, but they were never alerted that a tick was found on them at a camp or a daycare or school. And being aware of ticks and the very real dangers they present has to become second nature for New Yorkers as the threat continues to rise. As I said before, I think this bill has laudable goal, but I just want to state for the record that I really don't want to see it have any unintended consequences, and I hope you'll consider some changes. And I vote aye, Madam President. Thank you.
Senator Serino to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
In relation to Count of 380, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Akshar, Morello, Boyle, Griffo, Jordan, Lanza, Matera, Oberacker, O'Mara, Ort, Palumbo, Rath, Ritchie, Stec, and Tedisco. Ayes 47, nays 15.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 418, Senate Print 3396A by Senator May, an act to amend the Agriculture and Markets Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 456, Senate Print 1341 by Senator Brooks, an act to amend the executive law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 456, voted in the negative, Senator Brisport. Ayes 61, nays 1.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 494, Senate Print 8859A by Senator Gaughran, is an act to amend the labor law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 180th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 494, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Borrello, Helmy, Jordan, Oberacker, O'Mara, Ort, Rath, Serino, and Tedisco. Ayes 53, nays 9.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 496, Senate Print 3946 by Senator Mayer, an act to amend the labor law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 30th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 570, Senate Print 2008B by Senator Jackson, an act to amend the insurance law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 90th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 570, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Borrello, Gallivan, Griffo, Oberacker, O'Mara, Ort, Rath, Serino, and Stec. Ayes 53, nays 9.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 574, Senate Print 4111 by Senator Breslin, an act to amend the insurance law and the public health law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect on the 60th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the result.
In relation to calendar 574, those senators voting in the negative are Senators Akshar, Borello, Gallivan, Martucci, Oberacker, Ort, Rath, Tedisco, and White. Ayes 53, nays 9.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 581, Senate Print 4102A by Senator Savino, an act to amend the education law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect on the 60th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the result.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 585, Senate Print 4095B by Senator Sanders, an act to amend the environmental conservation law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the result.
In relation to calendar 585, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Akshar, Borello, Gallivan, Griffo, Helming, Jordan, Lanza, Martucci, Oberacker, O'Mara, Rath, Ritchie, Sereno, Stec, and Tedisco. Ayes 47, nays 15.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 591, Assembly number 2000 by Assembly Member Cusick, an act to amend Chapter 306 of the laws of 2011.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 596, Senate Print 5490A by Senator Hinchey, an act to amend the labor law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 656, Senate Print 956 by Senator Gaughran, an act to amend the public health law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Senator Gaughran to explain his vote.
Thank you, Madam President. MTBE, TCPA, PCE, PFOA, PFOS, 1,4-dioxane. These are abbreviated names for compounds that on Long Island for decades have infiltrated our sole source aquifer and threaten our drinking water. Our water districts and authorities spend hundreds of millions of dollars building expensive treatment systems to try to filter out these compounds so that we have safe drinking water. And in many cases, they just give up. Have to shut the well down, purchase land, build a new well at millions of dollars apiece. And this is not just an issue for Long Island, it is an issue for the entire state. And almost all of these chemicals and compounds that threaten our drinking water for decades are there because companies sold products to consumers with full knowledge that one day they would potentially get into our drinking water supply. This legislature took action last year to make sure that we amended the statute of limitations so that water entities around the state can sue the polluters. This legislature has also provided hundreds of millions of dollars to these same public entities so that they can build treatment systems. However, the polluters are now in court trying to settle many of these cases, and in court asking the judges to reduce the amount of award that they have to pay by the exact amount of the state grants that this state has given them. So this legislation today will end that loophole. It will make sure that if there are any settlements or if there are any awards, they cannot offset the amount of the state grants that people of New York are giving with their hard-earned tax dollars. And that way, we will have hundreds of millions of dollars more available to take care of protecting our drinking water today and for future generations. So, Madam President, I vote in the affirmative. Thank you.
Senator Gaughran to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 699, Senate Print 5950 by Senator Cooney, an act to amend the public authorities law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 701, Senate Print 6003 by Senator Kennedy, an act to amend the Public Authorities Law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the result.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 724, Senate Print 1256A by Senator Gianaris, an act to amend the Public Health Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 90th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 725, Senate Print 1759 by Senator Skoufis, an act to amend the Public Health Law.
The bill is laid aside.
Calendar number 727, Assembly number 6966 by Assemblymember Bronson, an act to amend the Public Health Law and the Social Services Law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect on the 45th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Senator Serino to explain her vote.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll be supporting this bill today in hopes that it helps families in the midst of a future emergency, but I want to make something really clear for anyone who may be watching. To imply that this bill has done anything to help any of the thousands of families who have been impacted by COVID-19 in New York's nursing homes during this pandemic would be a lie. A version of this bill was first introduced on September 2nd, 2020. No action was taken on it in 2020, despite the heartbreaking outreach from New Yorkers desperate to see their loved ones. The next version of this bill was introduced on January 6th, 2021. It did not pass here in the Senate until February 22nd. It took over a week for it to pass in the Assembly on March 3rd. At that time, we made it clear that this bill would do nothing to help reunite families immediately, thanks to the fact that it wouldn't take effect for 45 days till it got signed into law. After it finally passed both houses, the majority here in the Senate held on to the bill for about 2 weeks before finally sending it to the governor for a signature. And now, more than 60 days after it first passed in the Senate, longer than it would have taken for the bill to go into effect has it become law when it first passed, we're taking up a chapter amendment to it? Why? So you can negotiate changes with the same administration that's under investigation for their handling of nursing homes during this pandemic? This is just one of the many examples of all the hypocrisy of this body, an example of all the ways this body refuses to make these vulnerable residents and their loved ones the top priority that they should be. It's bad enough you've blocked every attempt we've put forward to launch a full review of the state's handling of the COVID crisis in these facilities. And now you want to string the families along, pretending you're doing something to help them, when in fact you're still putting them at the very bottom of your priority list. It's not right. New Yorkers deserve better. We're not going to stop pushing for the answers, accountabilities, and better policies nursing home residents, dedicated staff, and the loved ones deserve. Thank you, Madam President.
Senator Serino to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 728, Senate Print 6204 by Senator Rivera, an act to amend the Public Health Law.
The bill is laid aside. Senator Gianaris, that completes the reading of today's calendar.
Let's move on to the controversial calendar, please.
The secretary will ring the bell. The secretary will read.
Hang on 1 second.
Calendar number 728, Senate Print 6204 by Senator Rivera, an act to amend the Public Health Law.
Senator Lanza.
The desk, I waive the reading of that amendment and ask that Senator Stec be recognized and heard.
Thank you, Senator Lanza. Upon review of the amendment, in accordance with Rule 6, Section 4B, I rule it non-germane and out of order at this time.
Accordingly, Madam President, I appeal the ruling of the chair and ask that Senator Stec be recognized.
The appeal has been made and recognized, and Senator Stec may be heard.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise to appeal the ruling of the chair. The amendment before us is germane because the bill in chief deals largely with the public health law and Governor Cuomo has, on numerous occasions over the last year, issued many executive orders superseding, altering, and terminating various portions of the public health law. Back on March 5th, 7.5 weeks ago, in this chamber, we debated a bill that was purported to rescind Governor Cuomo's emergency authorities. The height of a lot of controversy swirling around him, people frustrated with the pandemic and what was going on, and this chamber said it was time to do something about it. They rolled out a bill, and the bill was debated, and it was purported that we were going to rescind his authorities. However, that is exactly not what happened, and that was the heart of the debate, is we were actually extending his authority. And I recall standing right here on March 5th, and I said, after listening to all this debate, that in 2 weeks after the governor signs this bill, we'll know who was right. We'll know whether or not, indeed, his powers were rescinded or if they were extended. Now, here it is, April 27th. And had we done nothing on March 5th, had we done nothing on March 5th, his emergency authorities would have sunsetted 3 days from now on April 30th. But we didn't. And as a matter of fact, the bill that was passed in this chamber in the Assembly and signed into law, not only did it eliminate the sunset of April 30th, it extended it as long as the governor thinks that there's still an emergency. So in other words, indefinitely. Now, additionally, in the last 7.5 weeks, I don't think anyone in the state of New York believes that his emergency powers have been rescinded. We're still subject to curfews and who you can shop with and how many people can be in your home for a gathering and whether or not people can go to a high school graduation. All these things are still being controlled by one person. And our Constitution in the state of New York was not set up to be run as a monarchy. It was not set up to be so that we're here to just debate and talk about issues and be ignored by the executive. Every day, every session day we've been here this year, this is the 38th time that my side of the aisle, our conference, has put this amendment in front of the House so that we could reestablish, give you all the opportunity to reestablish ourselves as a co-equal branch of government, to be a check on this executive. And the 37 previous times, the Senate has failed to do that. Now, it is being reported this afternoon in local media that the majority is set to agree to take action and rescind 3 executive orders that the governor has in place, and that the Assembly is expected to follow our lead. And that's welcome news. And it's my understanding, we haven't seen any details yet, but it's my understanding, our understanding, that one of these is the food mandate, that you can't buy alcohol without also ordering food, which of course is absolutely nonsensical. COVID isn't afraid of cheeseburgers. COVID doesn't know whether there's food present or not. It's an arbitrary and non-scientific executive order that is crushing thousands of local businesses, has caused tens of thousands of people in New York State to lose their jobs. It should have been scratched long ago. It should have been scratched at the beginning of the year on day 1 when we moved a hostile amendment to strip him of these powers. If the legislation on March 5th did what you all said it was going to do, maybe it would have ended on March 5th. But here we are, April 27th, 3 days before the executive orders would have ended and sunset due to last year's legislation, and we're talking about it again today. So we welcome your side of the aisle to coming over and being willing to start moving to eliminate 3 of his executive orders. That's a good first step to reestablishing ourselves as a co-equal branch of government, but it does not go far enough. It is not nearly enough to restore our constitutional obligation. And for those reasons, on behalf of my colleagues and all New Yorkers who sent us here to serve in the legislature and be a check on the executive, I urge you to reconsider, Madam President, your ruling and vote that this amendment is germane so that we can get back to work and be our co-equal branch of government and a check on this governor. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I want to remind the House that the vote is on the procedures of the House and the ruling of the chair. Those in favor of overruling the chair signify by saying aye.
Request a show of hands.
Madam President, we have agreed to waive the showing of hands and record each member of the minority in the affirmative. I can also confirm for Senator Stec the reports are true.
Without objection, so ordered. Announce the result.
Ayes 20.
The ruling of the chair stands, and the bill in chief is before the House. Any other senators wishing to be heard? Seeing none, debate is closed. The secretary will ring the bell. Read the last section.
Section 3, this action take effect on the same date and in the same manner as a chapter of the laws of 2021.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giunaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the result.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 725, Senate Print 1759 by Senator Skoufis, an act to amend the public health law.
Senator Oberacker.
Yes, I rise. Thank you, Madam President. I was wondering if I could ask the sponsor some questions on the bill.
Senator Gianaris.
Rivera will be handling the debate for our side, Madam President.
Senator Rivera, do you yield?
I'm back, and yes, I do yield, Madam President.
Senator yields.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Senator Rivera, for allowing me this. My first question, is concerning the list of substances that are listed in the bill. And I was wondering, how were they arrived at, or how was it copulated to bring those list of substances onto the bill?
These are our list of chemicals that were included in the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's third unregulated contaminant monitoring rule. So between 2013 and 2015, there were the utilities have to be tested for different chemicals. This bill would add a number of them. I will not read all of them into the record, Madam President, not only because they are complicated, but because I'm sure that the transcription would just show me doing gobbledygook. So let's just say that when you're talking about different chemicals which are human carcinogens, that can cause injuries to kidney and liver, that may cause allergy or asthma symptoms, can affect bone growth, may lead to increased cholesterol levels, increased risk of high blood pressure, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's a comprehensive list that I believe is necessary to be added to section 1112 which is the emergent contaminant monitoring section of the law in the state, again, to make sure that New Yorkers can be protected from all of these different chemicals and their potential impacts on the body.
Madam President, would Senator Rivera continue to yield?
Senator Rivera, do you continue to yield?
Yes, Madam President.
The senator yields.
Thank you. So, has the DEC or the federal EPA have any data indicating the presence of any or all of these substances in state drinking water?
President, adding these chemicals to the list is precisely about making sure that if they are found in different drinking water, that because of these contaminants, as I said earlier, can have all these different impacts, we can make sure to actually remediate the drinking water in these different wells or different potable drinking systems around the state. So while I'm hoping that we never find any of them, but since we know that if we do, they can have all the different effects that I talked about earlier, I would hope that everyone would want these to be added to the list of potential chemicals that should be tested for. So even though, Madam President, I am not familiar with every single potable drinking water system across the state, I would hope that any and all of them, which, by the way, is already required to be tested every 3 years, that none of these chemicals will be found. But again, we need to add them to the list to make sure that if they are found, they can be remediated.
Madam President, would Senator Rivera continue to yield?
Senator Rivera, do you yield?
Yes, Madam
The
President.
senator yields.
Thank you. So basically, we're going to be testing for things that we haven't found yet, And with that, I have a question of who's going to bear the costs of the testing that would be required for the emerging contaminants identified by this legislation?
Through you, Madam President, if the system serves 10,000 people or less, that would be a system, the EPA establishes that if a system serves less than 10,000 people, it is paid for by the Environmental Protection Agency. If it is larger than 10,000 people, then the cost would go to the locality. But I will tell you, Madam President, that the cost is from $50 to $470 per sample per testing method on average. So in the absolute worst case scenario, Madam President, that would be every 3 years, and this is again testing drinking water. So the actual stuff that our body needs to function, that we have to put in our body every day, for chemicals that can cause cancer, that can cause asthma, that can cause all sorts of things. So the cost at the worst case scenario, Madam President, every 3 years would be $11,000 at the very, very, very top. But that is, again, in the worst case scenario. So the cost for large systems, meaning larger systems that serve more than 10,000 people, by the systems themselves, and less than 10,000 by the Environmental Protection Agency.
You, Madam President, would Senator Rivera continue to yield?
Senator Rivera, do you continue to yield?
I do, Madam
The
President.
senator yields.
Thank you. So there's an acronym, and I was wondering, and this may not be a fair question to Senator Rivera, but I would like to know, what does PPM stand for or define? Sure. PPM, Peter Mark.
That'll be parts per million. I thought for a second it was RPM, and I thought that we were going to have a completely different conversation. But it is PPM would be parts per million, Madam President.
Would Senator Rivera continue to yield?
Senator Rivera, do you continue to yield?
Yes, Madam President.
The senator yields.
Senator, you are correct, and thank you for answering that question. My next question would be, would the senator have a rough idea of what 1 million gallons would encompass as far as potential area, size, depth, those type of things? If you had to make a guess, what would the dimensions be of a container that would hold 1 million gallons?
This room, maybe? I sincerely have no clue. I am not a spatial engineer, so I would say a crap load of space, for the record, Madam President, to you.
Madam President, on the bill.
Senator Oberacker on the bill.
First and foremost, I would like to thank Senator Rivera for stepping in and giving the answers to this bill. And just as a after note to give the dimensions of a container that would hold 1 million gallons of, say, water, you're looking at approximately an area of 267 feet by 50 feet by 10 feet deep. So parts per million, as Senator Rivera so adequately explained, you would have 1 gallon of any type of chemical or ingredient into those size dimensions to get 1 parts per million. One of the things I'm keenly aware of as a food scientist is the way the words have an effect on the public. So a word like bicarbonate of soda has a very scary connotation to it, yet each and every one of us has baking soda in our homes. Sodium carbonate would be another chemical sounding name, and again, that would be defined as potash in its common terms. And then most importantly, dihydrogen monoxide, which sounds like this insidious type of ingredient, and that's the chemical name for water. So I think we can all agree that when we speak about chemicals, that it's how it's presented and how it's worded that has a true effect on the public that we represent. And again, I would like to appreciate Senator Rivera's answers on that. And I believe he really does care about the safety and the quality, of our drinking water, as I do, and as I'm sure all of us here do. However, instituting repetitive testing requirements, along with imposing unnecessary, costly mandates on our local municipalities, accomplishes really very little, especially when there is no known existence of many of these contaminants here in New York. As a former town supervisor for a small town in Otsego County, the town of Maryland, being in charge of our water system, I can speak unequivocally that any of the chemicals that were listed in the bill have a zero chance of showing up in our water system, yet we're going to have to test for them. And especially when, again, there is no known existence of any of these contaminants in New York, if the state feels these tests are important, great. Put the money in the budget, hold our local municipalities harmless, and mandate that the state conduct the tests. Absent these changes, I, Madam President, will be voting in the negative. Thank you.
Are there any other senators wishing to be heard? Seeing and hearing none, debate is closed. The secretary will ring the bell. Read the last section.
Section 2, this action take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Senator Rivera to explain his vote.
Thank you, Madam President. First of all, I'd like to thank Senator Skoufis, who is on baby duty today, for doing something very important, so obviously that is why he's not here. But I had the pleasure of debating it. Thank you, Senator Oberacker, for bringing this stuff up. I just wanted to say a couple of quick things, Madam President. First of all, this is related to Section 1112 of the Emergent Contaminant, so the Emergent Contaminant Monitoring system that we have in the state of New York is already in state law. Every single potable drinking water system across the state has to test every 3 years. As I said, the ones that are smaller, serving less than 10,000 people, can get federal money to pay for this, are responsible for doing it themselves, and it would seem to me that that obviously we're responsible if we are a governmental system for making sure that our people can, have water in them that's not contaminated. And we're talking about things that, again, cause potential cancer, may damage fertility of an unborn child, can lead to enlarged thyroids, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It is true that in some of these instances, we might not have evidence that any of this is in the water, but that is why you test. And I believe that adding all of this is wise, is necessary, and I'm glad that we're able to move this bill today. So thank you, Senator Skoufis, for introducing it, and I vote in the affirmative. Thank you, Madam President.
Senator Rivera to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce results.
In relation to calendar 725, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Akshar, Borrello, Gallivan, Griffo, Oberacker, O'Mara, Ort, Rath, Ritchie, and Stec. Ayes 52, nays 10.
The bill is passed. Senator Gianaris, that completes the reading of the controversial calendar.
Thank you, Madam President. An announcement that following session, there will be a virtual meeting of the Judiciary Committee via Zoom.
Following session, there will be an immediate virtual meeting of the Judiciary Committee via Zoom.
Is there any further business at the desk?
There is no further business at the desk.
Move to adjourn until tomorrow, Wednesday, April 28th at 11 a.m.
On motion, the Senate stands adjourned until Wednesday, April 28th at 11 a.m.